How you doing? I'm Michael Bell, the voice of Duke.
Hi, this is Adrienne Palicki, Lady J from G.I. Joe.
Hey there, it's Rachel Nichols, aka Scarlett.
And if you're listening,
And you're listening to
And you are listening to Anything Joe's, a collaborative journey through the world of G.I. Joe with Greg and Jaren.
Yo, Joe!
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Anything Joe's, a collaborative journey through the world of G.I. Joe. My name is Greg Engel,
And I'm Jaren Decker.
and we'll be your host today. Today on Anything Joe's, we're going to catch up on some news. And let's start with the one news item that everybody has already covered in depth. Let's talk about the Super 7 Cobra Mothership. So, the Cobra Mothership, which is what Super 7 is calling it, because it doesn't actually have an official name, has now, launched their Kickstarter. Everybody's got their own. It's like streaming services. Yeah. Everybody had Netflix. Now we all have Peacock and Amazon Prime and Hulu. This isn't a Kickstarter. It's a Super 7 backed project, I guess, but it is a Kickstarter essentially. And the idea with the Kickstarter is, hey, we don't want to make this if y'all are going to buy it, so we need 4,000 people minimum to commit to buying it, or else we're just going to scrap it and we'll go back to the demo.
Or else.
So at the time of this recording, there are 1,411 backers with a minimum goal of 4K and 3 stretch goals that lead it up to 7K. This is a tough sell, frankly, because it's $500 and then another $100 for shipping, that's more than both HasLabs, right?
I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah. So
it's definitely more than either HasLab at one time. It might be more than both together.
Yeah, it's a lot. This is what we come to expect from Super 7. They make a premium item. It has a premium price that goes with it, unfortunately. Not just in the world of G.I. Joe where we saw the Ultimates figures, but they've done that, they did that, a lot of Thundercat stuff. They did that big tank. So they're not afraid to shy away from stuff that's most people don't want to, tackle at all. The question is, will there be enough fans to support it? Before we talk about the investment on this, let's actually take a look at what you're getting with the full in package. So, looking at the Super 7 pictures that they've supplied, you see there's a lot of computer mock-ups. So the first few images are just of the ship itself as designed on the computer. You can actually see the outside of the ship. We've already talked at great length about how the scale of the ship is not really there. This is probably a tenth of how I would imagine this actual size is. It looks huge in the cartoon. But I get it, right? Just like with Transformers, it's just not feasible to scale it the way it should be. So the idea is this or nothing, basically, or make it yourself. So the first promo 3D shot that I've got, you can see that they have some troopers that they have also designed. It's a weird combo. It's obviously supposed to be a Viper, but he does have kind of like a V2, the purple and orange Viper helmet on. And obviously we're still on the old school, this is the 5 POA, just like all your other Super 7s. Don't feel particularly warmed over by those figures. I know there's a bit another set that's also pictured. We'll get to that when we actually find the picture for it. You've got some landing, like some thrust coming out of it, which I think is included, so you can actually make it look like it's taking off. I do like that. Looking at some rendered shots of the inside, here we see a shot of the Super 7 Cobra Commander with another close-up of these Vipers. Again, the helmet on these. Maybe they're supposed to be flat helmets. I hadn't considered that.
Yeah, they look more like pilot helmets for sure.
So either a new type of Viper specifically designed for the Mothership, or Vipers that are multitasking, can also pilot this large ship. I'll again defer to when I see some better pictures of it, since this is just the 3D mock-up, but I really like the Cobra logo in the doorway. I love the globe that's pictured just kind of in the middle of the whole area with the gigantic Cobra logo on it. It seems like it's a perfectly feasible thing. Next picture is another 3D render of the Mothership in action. It's got lasers that pop up on the left and right hand side and fire. Looks fine. Again, these are all renders. Other render shows the back side of the cockpit, where you can see the backs of their stairs or their chairs have Cobra logos on them. They got a lot of like technical doohickeys on the side. You see like a compass and some computer. That all looks good. I'm here for it.
You can also tell that Cobra Commander can't see anything from where he's standing. He's just looking at the wall.
He's just looking. He's like, you guys describe what you're seeing and then tell me about it. I'm just going to go look at this globe. The next picture actually breaks down what is included with the set. So you have the Mothership itself. We can see on this shot where the guns pop up from the side, not just the two in the front, but there's two on the left and right hand side as well. Comes with a sticker sheet. I mean, pretty self-explanatory. Sticker it or don't. What's your call? We see the stands, which is what I was calling the actual like takeoff thrust effect. There's 3 stands, so there's 3 things to put underneath it, so it could look like it's taken off. I think that's a very good idea. In lieu of doing something that's like a Sky Striker stand where you can pivot, I think this is the next best thing. Certainly more important than, say, I don't know, these 8 explosives or these 2. I don't know why it says 2 trouble bubble missiles. Oh, because it's a separate piece, right? Okay, my bad. 8 explosives and then 2 different types of gunners. This is what I was mentioning earlier. You've got your gunner reaction figure. Same old, 5 POA fits in with your other reaction figures if that's your jam. But now we also have a gunner O-ring figure, which is a classic 3 3/4 style, just like, what we were going through with the 2 packs of Duke and Cobra Commander, 2 Cobra officers. Also the, the O-rings that were coming with the Transformers tie-in packs, Barons and Stalker. This is in line with that. Another classic O-ring figure that will either live or die based on this. People had talked at length about Super 7 wanted to do O-rings initially. Hasbro said, no, don't eat on our plate. That's our thing. Hasbro did some O-ring stuff and went, yeah, you know what? We're done with these for whatever reason. And then Super 7 was like, hey, can we do it? And I guess they were like, I'll tell you what, try it on this one project and see how it goes. I would love to see Super 7 just fully acquire the O-ring license and do exactly what they're doing with the Super 7 figures with these. Give me that Quinn and that bazooka in the ski suit. Give me the Raven pilot, the female Raven pilot. Like all these figures that I love that Super 7's doing that I only feel about because they're Super 7 would be absolute hits in an O-ring line, and you can't convince me otherwise that people wouldn't go crazy for them. I would even buy another rehash of the figures that they've done: Baroness, Scarlet, Cobra Commander, Destro, the usuals. As long as they were trying something fresh. They always lean so heavily into the cartoon. I mean, they basically exclusively do that. If they do that with the figures, I think you'd have a hit. Just my gut reaction. So those are the the kind of the like prototype figures that they were showing, that they're showing right now on the Super 7 site. All right, now let's look at some of the fully rendered 3D images of what the actual inside of the whole thing looks like. So the entire top is removable. You can see here in this image, it's not just like a cutaway. It's actually going to come off. So play features basically is what I'm saying. We've got our 2 seats on the front, which we've already seen where the globe is at. There are 2 seats on both the left and right for like Televipers, Techno Vipers, whatever you've got, kind of like working the logistics of it. And then outside of the cabin, there's that Cobra logo that you walk through, and there's a set of stairs that leads. I guess that's kind of like the ramp that leads out. So again, I can actually see some pegs. Yeah, I can see some pegs on the floor where you can have people kind of where there aren't stairs. You could still have people sitting. If I was ballparking this, without overcrowding 3, 6, 9, you could probably fit somewhere between 10 and this is maybe a stretch, but maybe 15 figures would fit in it relatively comfortably. And it would look busy, not like jam packed. So I like that they had the foresight to put those pegs on there. I don't know. I'm assuming those will only be compatible with original vintage figures, not modern figures, because there's some discrepancy there in the stands. And that's fine. I mean, it is what it is. The hope, we know it'll work with vintage figures because they designed a vintage figure with it. But modern figures scale slightly higher, at, about 4 inches. So my question will immediately be, will modern figures work on this, or will they look, way too large to fit in these seats? I mean, I really won't know until I have one in hand, but I'm willing to commit to what I've got. So the left and right hand side of the opening of the ship have got different things going on. On the its right, our left, you've got a set of bombs. Those four of the 8 bombs that were listed on the other page. I'm guessing those don't just drop down. I'm guessing that's just like a storage bay for them. Even though they have circles at the bottom, I don't see anything that suggests that they actually like launch. On the other side of that, there's a jail cell, which if you are well versed in G.I. Joe, you'll know that that's the exact same jail cell design that they have in the Terrordrome. So that's a nice nod that they not only were like, hey, we're making good, logical play features, but we're also going to dial it back. We could have made this jail cell look like anything. Laser beams, real gel. We chose to age it with the toy, and so it fits in line with the exact same gel that they would have at the Terrordrome. I like that a lot. You can also see that I'm going to assume these are pre-applied stickers, but there's like caution tape and little warnings everywhere. In the jail cell, I could see I can't see it up close. Oh, I can see it up close. It's a Hell Cobra sign in their jail cell, so that's nice.
So if I'm counting right, counting pegs for feet and seats for butts, you're looking over 20 figures should fit in this. If you just put a figure on each peg.
Yeah. So
and on each seat.
That's not bad. Not a ton of vehicles out there that you can get 20 people on with reasonable, comfortability. On this stairwell, on the angle that we're looking at now, there's a blue box with wires coming out of it. It goes into a box that has like a hot air balloon or maybe a very misshapen diamond on it, and in that there's a little white package. I get real worked up over the details. I'm like, what is that?
Are those the parachutes?
Oh, maybe. Well, X that out because we're not getting those.
Because it's on both sides of that ramp.
So they had an early access thing where if they hit the first goal within a certain amount of time, it would unlock these parachutes for everybody. And we already missed that window. And I'm saving all the financing talk for the end, but we'll talk about value versus what's included here.
Yeah, so it looks like the blue thing with the wires coming out, that looks like the backpack, and then the white part is the parachute.
I see.
Is what it looks like to me from zooming in on it.
There is also a possibility that is molded into it, and it's actually nothing other than a design, and it doesn't do anything, which is fine. The next shot is just kind of a show of what it looks like from all angles on the outside. Again, we can see the guns popping out. Oh, there's 2 guns on the side. So there's 3 guns on the exterior of both sides for 6 guns that pop up total. And then we see the ramp on the back. It looks like the top part comes up and the bottom part comes down. I'm not very good with dimensions, so I don't exactly know what kind of vehicle you could fit in there. Certainly probably a Ferret, a smaller vehicle. But I don't think you're going to get a Stinger in there or anything crazy like that.
Well, let's see. Do you see the next picture, or maybe it's 2 pictures?
Oh, yeah. I see that.
32.3. On my camera feed right now, let me see, make sure it's actually showing up. 32.3. And I just so happen to have a shell of a badger here.
Oh, wow. What, of all the things.
I mean, I'm going to say you can get a badger in there pretty easily.
Okay, so if a badger will fit, then you could find a pretty streamlined, set of things that would go in there. You could get put some trouble bubbles in there, and they could pop out the back thick. And, kind of. Yeah. I
mean, if we're saying that door to me looks like it's almost a third of it. Maybe a little bit less, but still, we're still talking 10 inches wide.
So some experimentation to be done there. But I feel certain that some smaller vehicles will fit in and will gel with it very well. Next section shows exactly how the top comes off. It looks like it's set into, is that 5 pieces? So every compartment
Looks
is
like
also every compartment is unique. So if you were just playing, for example, in the like cabin, you could keep everything else closed, and it would probably make like toy photography look a little bit more realistic. And you know what? That's better. If I've learned anything from owning vintage G.I. Joe toys, it's that you should not make any one thing too large, because not only does it become a hassle to ship, store, and remain unbroken, it's they're impossible to replace. So at least this way, you have some options if something did happen to it.
Yeah.
Here's another picture of everything all in from the front. It looks dark here. This one looks black compared to the gray that the other pictures show. And it shows what the unloading bay looks like when it's in the upright position. Nothing to write home about. Some more pictures kind of at a different angle.
Just
You can
absolutely beautiful.
You can see in this angle with the little parachute thing a little bit better rendered.
Yeah,
I
on a
still
later
really don't know.
picture, a couple later, after the lights, you can see it's empty. So it looks like those are meant to be the parachutes. And now, and there's actually a little diagram on the front of the box that looks like a parachute. So now we're just going to have an empty spot.
Fair enough.
Budget cuts, Cobra. Budget cuts.
Some other interesting things that I can see from this angle there are shackles in the prison. They are probably molded into it, which I have no issues with.
That's
and
cool.
you can also see the logistics of how the cell door works. How it slides behind the gray door, which again is exactly how the other one worked. This is much thicker in this render, so I think it'll be a little bit more durable.
Hey, it looks like the globe will spin because that Cobra logo is in different areas in different spots.
Yeah, so if you
That's
flip
fun.
between these two pictures, it shows the cell door opens. The Cobra logo leading into the cabin door is also open, which I very like a lot. It has two panels on the floor that open up to reveal like techno stuff, just like most vehicles did back then. And whatever's on this other side that we haven't seen yet also opens up with whatever's opposite the cell door, basically.
The armory.
The armory. Here's the overhead view. Again, nothing. I'm not seeing anything I haven't already seen at this point. Just another good view of what we're seeing. I can also see that those parachutes are now on both sides of the thing. Lights. So this does have LED lighting on the bottom of it, and according to this picture, it has a whole lot of them. 3, 6, 9, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 LED lights on the bottom of the ship, which I think is great. Not only something that I would expect at this price point, obviously, but I'm thinking ahead to these lights plus that thrust that you put on as a base would probably light up from that light and make it look more like it's actually
Really
lifting
cool.
up. Like, yeah. So I'm very, very into that. I like that stuff. I don't normally go for like lighting on toys, but when you're getting something like this, that is, I think essentially is more of a display piece than just about anything else. I'm all for it. And here it is with no lights on, in case you don't know how to turn your lights on and off in your house. Here's another angle. We're just going to kind of go through all of these. Some of these I don't need to talk about this again. Another angle, same stuff. Worth seeing because it helps you visualize it in your mind a little bit, but I'm not seeing anything that I haven't already seen. Here's those bombs that I was talking about.
And you
Again,
can see
they
that
have
parachute thing above it.
yeah, now empty. They're like, oh, it's been canceled. Remove it immediately. I like the bombs. I wish they had somewhere to like clip onto outside. I mean, I guess they go. I guess they are supposed to fall down. They're like an actual bomber. But if those bottoms don't open, I do feel like that's a bit of a loss. Maybe they do, and I just haven't seen it yet. Here's the armory with the opening doors. You can see they've got molded like weapons and grenades on the actual doors. And I'm guessing those little supply packs at the top are probably molded. But I would hazard a guess, because that's a Viper backpack, that stuff all comes out. Maybe I don't know if it comes with it, but maybe if you buy the 5-pack, you can store it all here.
It's supposed to come with 4 of each of those guns and then a couple of those packs in that picture earlier. So I'd imagine that's just where they want you to put it.
Makes sense. And it's a cool idea, to have something like that where they would store their weapons and all that. And then that closes and has the word armory on it. It has a little pin pad. I like all this little detail that's molded into it. That's a cheap way to make your stuff look a lot more detailed, but you don't have to make a separate part. You just need a talented, 3D designer.
Yeah.
So that's the Mothership. Now we've got some close hand looks at the figures. So we've already talked about this a little bit. We've got an O-ring Viper, and then we've got a reaction Viper, and the differences are just, they look identical except for the articulation, which I think is a bold step to be like, we're going to make our old stuff, and then we're going to try something new as well. I am not in love with these, quite frankly. I don't really need another Viper, and I certainly don't think I can justify paying. It's like $70, $75 for the 6-pack that you can get added on separately.
Yeah.
But if they come with it, I would be willing to entertain it. I certainly cannot entertain the idea of putting an additional $75 on top of what I am considering spending already. I think they look good, but I really am only excited for what the future holds, because I don't need 5 Vipers, and I certainly don't need 5 Vipers that look like this. Yeah. For piloting the ship, that's fine, but for regular use, I don't know. I've got Strato Vipers, I've got Air Devils, I've got plenty of guys that can fly planes at Cobra side. Here's another shot of the actual loadout, the 3 boosters. It's 8 guns, 4 of each type. 3 Viper backpacks, 8 bombs, these 2 trouble bubble missiles that say "No Joes" on the side. What is it with designers being like they made that Cobra sticker sheet for the Sky Striker, and it's all like, it's almost like a parody. I don't think Cobra would steal a Sky Striker and then just write "No Joe" on it. I think they'd be like, let's Pythonize this, or let's steal the entire thing and reroute it. And this sticker sheet is, actually, the majority of the sticker sheet that's included is pretty solid. You can see some thermal imaging of what I'm going to assume might be Cobra Island. I guess it could also be a potential target, although that's not as exciting to me. They have the little Hell Cobra sticker that goes in the gel cell, so you can see not only where they expect you to apply it, but that you will in fact be putting most of them on. It's also not a ton of stickers. The little arrows that are pointing like this way and that way, from a guy that has stickered many Sky Strikers, it's going to be a pain, but it's not. I've done way worse, so it's at least a manageable amount. Oh, there's a second sticker sheet. My bad. So, this is the tier 1 unlock. Yeah. Okay, so if they hit 4,000, you unlock tier 1. Tier 1 includes these 2. Are these supposed to be Trouble Bubbles redesigned, or do they have a different name?
I'm gonna say, if you don't know, I definitely ain't got a shot.
Let me see if it says.
No, because there's a Trouble Bubble in tier 2, so I don't know what tier 1 is.
They're called turrets on here, and it hits at 5,000 backers. 4,000 backers means we'll make it. 5,000 backers is when you start unlocking stuff, and every 1,000 after that. So let's look at these real quick, even though I'm not exactly super pumped to think that these are going to get made. So 2 turret seats and an additional set of stickers. I don't know if these, a turret applies that they would slot into the ship somehow, but I don't have a picture of how they are expecting to do that. So I'm not really 100% sure. I do like this, and I think it would be a good addition, but it's out of my control if it hits the goal or not. So, I can live without it, but you do hope at this price point it gets as much as possible.
So real quick, there is if you go down to the bottom of the Super 7 site, there's like a 3D render walkthrough of it, and it answers some questions. It is, so the handcuffs in the jail cell look like they, at least according to this, are going to be usable to put onto figures. And then those bombs do drop out of the thing, but there's only one hole. So if you go back to that picture on the bottom of it,
okay,
where there's like the one extra hole underneath where the 3 pegs in for the stand, there's 2 holes, and I didn't know what those were, but it looks like they drop, and so there's a rail for those 4 missiles that you can push and then make them drop, which is really clever. That is, this little walkthrough makes it look even cooler, because it looks like even the little consoles will come up where they're being used.
I see that.
That's I mean, that's pretty cool to get little Flint in jail.
This is all very good. I really enjoy a toy that has practical applications that are both fun and inviting. I'm really pleased to see those bombs dropped. I think that's a great idea.
Yeah.
And then, so now we know that it can store 2 trouble bubbles on the back because we see them there.
Yeah, and not like pushed up against each other. So
yeah, side by side. Of course, again, we're in the world of a 3D render. I don't know how strict they are on that stuff. Like if they might be fudging it a little bit.
yeah.
Okay, yeah, that all looks really good. I really like all this stuff. I wonder if the globe is shown rotating there. I wonder if I guess you can do that from underneath. It would be rad if that was battery powered and it just
that would be
rotated on
really
its own.
cool.
Okay,
I love those
good
doors, how they have the red on it when they close. Mm-hmm. So it finishes off like the Cobra symbol. That looks really cool.
So the turrets, we don't know. I don't know where they go and I don't know what they do. Well, I know what they do. I know what a turret does. But I don't know how likely it is that we'll get it. The tier 2 unlock is those 2 trouble bubbles, essentially. Which, again, I'm like, these have been designed specifically to go in the mothership. The dimensions might be a little wiggly. But it still gives me a good starting point of an idea of what will fit in there. Tier 3 unlock is, it looks like a set of they're called Viper Gunners is what they're calling them here. And the tier 3 unlock is just like a recolor of those in black and red. So those are your 3 tiers leading up to 7K. All right, now we've looked at it and we've seen everything it has to offer and we have lots and lots of thoughts on it. But the big question is this worth $500 and then $100 shipping? Jaren, yes. You say that, Jaren, but I'd be very surprised to hear you say that you're buying this.
I'm not. I would love to. The more we go through it, the more I'm like, oh my gosh, I want this. But $600 and the fact that it's going on right now, if they had waited until beginning of the year or spring as we're kind of hopefully getting a little bit of break, I might have been able to cobble something together and get it. But it's just... I mean, I've been hit for so many classified figures, and this would be a year's worth of classified figures. And as cool as I think this is, the fact that it's out of my scale as well, it's just not... For the people that have it, I think it's worth it. But it's just so hard to get that much for me. Yeah, I just can't do it. But man, I want it. The more I see it, the more, like, as we're going through it, I'm like, oh yeah, that's cool. Oh wow, that's cool. And then like that render, seeing that, and I'm like, oh man, I could fit 2 Badgers in there maybe if I try really hard. It's just it's you can tell that Super 7 is really like done their research and is really caring about what they're making, which is really cool to see. I wish I could partake. I just can't.
This is a tough one. Do I feel this is worth $600? No, I don't. I didn't say I wasn't going to buy it. So a couple of points. First of all, I do think that the retail price for Super 7 stuff across the board is a little high. Don't think they make bad quality at all. With the exception of some quality control issues from Ultimates Wave 2, I've been pretty happy with what I buy from them. But they kind of got me over a barrel. I feel compelled to get it. I really do. I really want it. But I'm also struggling with the price in a big way. There's very little about this set that does not appeal to me. I like that they're making something that's never been made. I like that it has great playability and has good potential for dioramas. I think it would display really, really well wherever you put it. And there's at least a possibility that it will work with modern figures, which would be a big deal for me. In a real way, the Super 7 is so good at their detail orientation that I feel like there's a part, you start to get a part where you're like, vintage G.I. Joes don't look right anymore because this looks so good and they look so old that there's a little bit of a compatibility problem. Modern figures, I feel like, cross that divide a little bit better. But I wouldn't be unhappy if I got it and it only worked with vintage figures. I mean, I'd be a little let down. For the price, I would like it to work with just about everything. The thing that will probably get me across that line is that they have a payment plan system, which I've used before. It's called Shop Pay. I think it works with Amazon or something else, and it is basically, it's like rent to own, except not quite as much of a ripoff as rent to own is. You pay a small percentage premium total, and then you set a payment plan based on how frequently you want to pay, every month, every 3 months. How soon do you want to have it paid off, and that's it. It's just like using a credit card or any other thing. They ship. You don't have to wait till it's paid off. You'll get it when it's ready, and then you pay them. I think that's about the only way I could feasibly pull the trigger on something this big and not be just like, I can't have $600 coming out of, I can't have $600 coming out of my savings account. I don't have $600. So maybe over the course of a year, I'll be able to work up to it and pay it off. I have basically decided since they announced it that I am getting this, and that Shop Pay is probably going to be the only way that I can do it. The only thing that's holding me back, and I say this with much love to Super 7, who's made lots of product that I've bought and enjoy, but almost everything I've ever bought from Super 7, I have been able to find cheaper later. Almost all of it gets at least a 20%, some kind of like deal of the day. If you're an aggressive shopper for G.I. Joe and you police lots of like big bag toy store deals of the day, or even Amazon. I got the San Diego Comic-Con set, which is the 5-person set from Pyramid of Darkness. Obviously very relatable. Came with the robot, Shipwreck, Snake Eyes, and some other dudes. And it was like, I think it was between $60 and $80 when it came out. And I bought it like maybe 4 months later, a San Diego Comic-Con exclusive. I bought it on Amazon, and it was like maybe $40 below MSRP. And I've seen the Ultimates go on sale for less than that also. And you can go buy almost any Super 7 figure for half of retail right now also. So in my head, I'm like, you might be overpaying yet again, Greg, for a G.I. Joe product. But someone did say, hey, this is a Kickstarter or whatever, and they're basically made to order. So there probably won't be a lot of extras out there to get rid of. And I do look at other things in this zone, like Jabba's Barge, the Marvel Sentinel, any of that other older, HasLab Kickstarter stuff. That stuff did not go down in value. That stuff actually has gotten significantly worse, to the point to where I don't collect any of that stuff that I named, but I look at it and go, that looks great. And then I'm like, holy moly, it's even more expensive than what it was overpriced at initially. So there's something to be considered for that as well. We're going to move on to talk about other stuff, but I wanted to talk about this a little bit, cover the ins and outs of it, and basically publicly commit that I'm buying it, so I can't back down. I would, when this, again, I'll buy it, and when it comes in, we'll open it up and really give it a working over and see what it's compatible with and see what we can do with it and see how it looks in place. I'm excited for it. I'm glad it's getting made. I would have changed quite a bit, honestly, but I'm not unhappy with it. It has just enough. It's just enough stuff that's right for me to really need it, and then I'll put it right beside that clock that I can't afford. So that's the Super 7 Mothership. It doesn't end until December 11th. There's actually quite a bit of time. I do appreciate that they gave us a huge window to think it through, and kind of, if you've got to move some money around, you have some time to do that. My work bonus falls around the end of November historically, so that's another thing that will play in a very big way. Well, is my bonus good? Is it so good that I can sneak out $600 and my wife won't notice that I bought a gigantic toy plane? Stay tuned, listeners. All right, that's the thing I wanted to talk about in detail. Let's do a couple quick hits on some other stuff that's been happening this week. All right, we're going to rapid fire some stuff that's been out this week. I don't think this is stuff that requires an extensive amount of discussion because it's things that we've seen before, at least in some form. First thing up is Hiya Toys is continuing their classified rescale 4-inch international overseas only figure line with Major Bludd. If you've not been following this line, Hiya Toys is an international seller. They have acquired the license to make basically 4-inch Modern Joes, with the caveat that they can't be sold in the States. So I hope you don't like them too much because they're real hard to get, is what I've learned. they've been kind of doing, these are all classified figures. We know this because the Storm Shadow that they came out with actually used an old classified design where he has the tattoos on his arm. And it seems like they're leaning even more into that with every figure. They announced Flint, they announced Lady J. Those were both very classified heavy. This Major Bludd, also, very classified influence. He's got the dog tags around his neck, like the classified figure does. The robotic arm is like way more robotic. These are just about as close as you could get to saying, take this classified figure and make him smaller.
Yeah.
I love these figures. I really genuinely do. And I want them because this is my scale, this is my collection, and I like a lot what they're doing. The only one of these I actually have in hand is the Storm Shadow because it was such a radical departure from everything else we'd seen. I thought it was a must-have addition to the modern scale that I was collecting. And I love it. It's very posable. It's very play-friendly. It's got a lot of extra parts. It's too expensive. It is expensive to have these guys imported. I would like to give a shout-out as a non-sponsored post, but smalljoes.com. An online retailer that I've bought many G.I. Joe accessories for over the years. Stuff for my IKEA cases, display stands, whatever. They put out a thing. They sent an email blast out, and they were taking pre-orders for two of the older ones. It was like Firefly, Flint, Lady J, maybe, for $29.99. Now, these have an MSRP of $24.99 over there. And you can argue right away that is too expensive based on you could get a classified figure for the same price in the States. I won't argue that. But because I'm so passionate about these, that doesn't bother me. And $30, I'm here to tell you right now, is way better than what I've been seeing online. I think I paid close to $40 once I got that Storm Shadow shipped. So I was like, I'm going to pre-order these in the hopes that I have actually maybe finally found somebody that will distribute in the States, because I will buy all of these. I would buy even less classified stuff to continue to collect these. The only thing I don't like about these is the head molds. I think often suffer from the shrinky dinkiness of it. They can't get the detail down to pack. I do think it looks better than probably 85% of modern G.I. Joe figures that are out there because they're from 10, 15 years ago. And technology does continue to improve with toys. But it's the one thing that I'm like, I think this could be better. Everything else, I think it looks absolutely rad. Jaren, what are your thoughts on Hiya Toys Major Bludd?
I feel like I have nothing to add, really. They look like shrunk down classifieds. I like the original. I like that these are kind of bringing that original design where there's a little bit more out there, less one-to-one. I think that's super cool. Really cool. Not something I'm going to add because I'm already struggling paying for the classifieds that I'm getting. So, but I am happy that there are things for people in the other scales. More G.I. Joe stuff is not a bad thing.
Next item, Mezco Toys 112 Collective announces the G.I. Joe Duke Deluxe Edition. Mezco 112 Duke ships May to July 2024. It's $112 with a non-refundable deposit of $28 if you get it through them. Don't do that. Get it through BPTS. It requires a smaller pre-order bonus or a smaller deposit. And also, I just want to say, the last 2 times I've canceled something from Big Bad Toy Store, they have refunded that non-refundable deposit as well. Good guys. Not a good guy, however, is this abomination Mezco 112 G.I. Joe Duke. Jaren, you were talking about before we got started that you did not feel this really did it for you, and I can kind of see why. Would you like to speak a little bit up front about what it is about this figure that you don't enjoy?
I think first off, his lifeless eyes, that hurts it. There's the picture of him on the flag and he's saluting, and he looks like he is not all there. He has seen the horrors of war. I think it's a problem I have with Mezco. I feel like their head sculpts for humans is not, and it might be also the proportions. Like if you look at the full on him, he just looks a little beefy, a little short and stout, and I think. Don't get me wrong, Mezco does amazing
Here is his
stuff.
handle, here is his stout.
Exactly. But and it's the same thing I have with there's a lot of the Batman figures that I'm like, ooh, I don't like the unmasked head, but I like the figure. but where they shine, I think, is in that more weird, more niche kind of thing, like the Gomez figures or the Rumble Societies and things like that. The weaponry also is really, really fun because, like, for anyone who is into guns, just reading this, I feel like is going to send some people, so let me read it. The secondary weapon is machine gun. 2 removable machine gun clips, removable front silencer, and 6 grenades in 2 styles. It's just, that's not how anyone would write it, I don't think. And really the same thing with a handgun, 2 removable clips for gun. It's just, I feel like it's almost there.
I got 2 removable clips and a tripod.
It's just like, even looking at the guns, like it looks like I can see parts of guns, but not really. Like it's almost there, and I feel like almost there is kind of how I would describe every bit about this figure. Like his face is almost there, his proportions are almost there, his guns are almost there. Like I feel like, now granted, I say all that as someone who, if I made something, no one would even want to see the renderings of. So take what I'm saying with a grain of salt. It's just, I am excited for some of the figures. I own a Mezco now, and I know the work that they do and how phenomenal it is. This one is not one that's coming home with me. This is not the G.I. Joe that is going to bring it home to me. Plus, I like a Duke that looks younger. I don't know. This guy looks like he's ready for retirement, not ready to go do more adventuring.
I do feel like in these 3 head molds, he looks like different people in almost every one of them. Of these 3 heads, the serious face doesn't do it for me. The yelling face doesn't do it for me. The smile face, I'm like, oh, okay, I could maybe go with that.
Yeah.
And it actually wasn't that much different with Destro when I think about it, because Destro was like, here's the cartoon helmet. I was like, no. Here's the weird one where he looks really, really happy. I was like, no. So maybe that's just how it is. Maybe they make 3 because they know you're only going to like one of them. 13 interchangeable hands. 2 nondescript weapons with their accessories. Pistol, knife, fire effects, grenades, clips, rocket launcher, and a tripod. He's got I'm just getting started. He's got a canteen, binoculars, helmet, walkie-talkie, a foldable shovel, mud splash, backpack, which doesn't look a lot like his original one, and then he has a scarf. I am always like, I do not like the cloth goods, but that Destro really did kind of like win me over a little bit, because the cloth on him is just like tailored almost, form-fitting, kind of stretchy, doesn't fall into that void that most cloth goods normally do, where you're like, oh, you clip the cape on here and then blow on him to make it, you know what I mean? Like really lazy stuff. So I am slowly getting over that hurdle, because I have seen what a great job they've done with it. This is a maybe for me. I really do want to collect the Mezco 112s. I think they look great, and the more of them I get, the more amazing I think they'll all look together. I don't know. So much going on. A May to July 2024 does help, but things are so crunch heavy right now, I'm just not ready to commit to it. Not quite yet. But not the worst one. I mean, it's just not like, it's not going to win any awards. You're dead center. I mean, you're completely right that the head is the one thing about this that I'm like, doesn't look quite right. It's not. I don't know. It's tough when you're working with a character that is not based on a real human, because there's so much interpretation based on the artists. I don't feel like they leaned into any particular art style with this, because he does not look like any Duke I've ever seen before. I don't know. We'll come back to this. When I see the actual physical reveal, not the prototype shown pictures, I'll know for sure. I'll know right away if it's a done deal or not. Last quick news item. This comes to us from Aussie92YoJo on Instagram. It's our first images of the McFarlane G.I. Joe page punchers. What's a page puncher, you might ask? Well, me too. What's a page puncher, Jaren?
So it's something they've been doing with DC, and they've done it with Spawn. I think those are the only two they've done so far. What it is it's a page puncher. You've got a little guy that punches, and you've got some comic book pages. So they pack in a comic book with sometimes a unique cover, but it's a reprint normally, and at least the one I've got, the ones I've seen. And it's a cool little idea, maybe to get kids into comics and still give them a little toy. It is something that I think it's cool to see that the Joe team is branching out. Now we've got Super 7, we've got Hiya, we've got Mezco, and now we've got McFarlane. I am a McFarlane person. I know a lot of people are not McFarlane people, but I like what McFarlane's doing with the DC stuff. So I'll be excited to see how these all actually turn out in hand. And I will probably end up getting them for my son. He's 3 and he likes little toys. He doesn't like big things. He likes the little things a lot more. So these figures are like 2.5 inch, 5 POA normally, maybe 4 POA. I don't even know if the head actually turns or not. I don't own any of the DC ones, but I might end up getting some of these Joes.
Do you know what the average price is on these?
Honestly, no. Not off the top of my head.
I'm gonna say like maybe $20. Seems like a.
I feel like somebody
reasonable.
messaged us about that today.
So here I have some thoughts on this. I'll say up front, you guys know how I am. I like everything. I want everything that's G.I. Joe related. This is very unappealing to me. It's in another. it's in a scale that I have nothing else in. This is like comparable to, say, Mask figures, very small. The articulation is limited because of that size. It makes me think of the old Awkward years. Prior, to DTC, they had hip joints like that where the legs only moved up and down, didn't bend at the knee. They were bad. They were very bad. It was a very bad year for G.I. Joe around that time.
Yeah.
So $20 would definitely be the most I would pay for this. And even then, I'm probably only paying it for the reprint covers. Interesting thing about these comics that come with them, they are 2 totally different books from 2 totally different eras. The book on the left is a Jamie Sullivan variant cover for G.I. Joe: A Real American Hero 267, written by Larry Hama. So I've got a few years on it, as we're up to 300 now. Mm-hmm. The other book is even older than that. That's from the IDW run that Chuck Dixon wrote. It's from the total reboot era. It's not based on the Real American Hero continuity at all. If you're trying to get kids into G.I. Joe, you probably should not market 2 completely separate continuities to them. You should have picked something that would be an easy jumping on point. That also is a little bit more kid-friendly, maybe, than these 2 books would be.
My only hope is that since these are not official reveals, maybe these were just placeholders. They grabbed 2 random comics and they're like, here, these have those characters. Because I can't imagine that they would not want to push old. I can't imagine they would want to push old comics instead of the new relaunch that's coming.
Yeah, unless that was inked beforehand. I'm sure IDW was like, yeah, we'll do anything that they'll let us since we don't have the license anymore. Jaren, the only thing I can say to counterpoint that is that these 2 books don't have barcodes on them, and they would have had barcodes in the lower left-hand corner. But I would still play devil's advocate and say that these could be mock-ups and not the full thing. Yeah. I guess we'll see in hand. It's just these 2. I'll probably will buy them if it's just these 2 sets just to have them.
Yeah.
But
if it's anything like the DC, he started pumping things out pretty quick once he started. And what I saw was that the 2 packs for the DC are $16.99. So depending on how licensing go, they could be even maybe a little bit cheaper.
That's even more appealing.
Less licenses.
It's so funny that I understand that Hasbro has got to be like, yeah, you want to work on it, no problem, but don't you work on it in the scale that we're working it on, because you might outperform us, and that would be bad. And so they always try something different, and every time it's something just a little. I mean, I understand that working at a different scale has got to be like the kiss of death, because I'm looking at these and like, no. As a matter of fact, the first thing I think of are those gigantic G.I. Joes that came out, and they were like Dollar Tree, Ollie's, that type of thing.
Yeah.
And those didn't go anywhere either because they were real big, no articulation, did not come with a comic, had no, I'm like, you can't, this is not how you market it to a child. And if you're not marketing to a child, you're way off base. Because even I won't touch this stuff. I'm like, what am I going to do with a G.I. Joe this size in a scale that basically died immediately? So I don't know. We'll see what this looks like when they actually hit the stores. But it doesn't do much for me other than just the like novelty of seeing them envisioned in another line. Anything that comes out for this line that I think looks great, like if I get that Duke and I'm like, wow, this is a redesigned Duke and it's the best one I've ever seen, I'm just going to be mad that I don't have it in a scale that I actually play with. So anyway, Page Punchers coming soon. Probably. I don't saw it. That's the only information we have.
We'll see.
That concludes the news for this week. As we wrap up, Jaren and I just kind of have it's like free time. It's a recess. Jaren and I was going to talk with you a little bit about how Void Rivals has been going. If you have not been reading Void Rivals, or if you have been under a rock for the last 4 months, it's the merger with Robert Kirkman's Skybound Entertainment. They are relaunching G.I. Joe and Transformers under their label, and they've also made a third title called Void Rivals, which is somehow supposed to tie these two properties together. I'll say up front that the discussion that follows will contain spoilers for the first 4 issues. So if you haven't read it and you're interested in it, then you could just sign off right now, and we'll see you in 2 weeks. Otherwise, let's get going. Jaren, you had mentioned, we haven't talked about this at all because I just got caught up. I did not realize it had already been so long since we covered number 1. So I read 2 through 4 this week, and I'll just have to say that the very first takeaway that I had from it was there are no G.I. Joes in this book yet. It's been almost half of a year, and I'm still dealing with these 2 scrubs. So I am, it makes me think, it gives me like Batman Fortnite crossover vibes where I was like, I don't want to read this. I just want to see Snake Eyes. And then Snake Eyes shows up, they fight, and I'm like, great. Well, as far as I'm concerned, this book just ended. I do not care what happens after this. That is harsh because I actually think that Void Rivals is written quite well and is an interesting story, but I was promised the merger of 2 universes, and I did not think we would still be reading it this far along. Not only are we 4 issues in, and the plot has developed pretty significantly for these 2 primary characters. There is it's not like they're like, oh man, we're finally at war with each other over these Energon cubes, or there's nothing. There is nothing. Like, they're not like, oh, there's a stray astronaut named Countdown flying around. Like, I was expecting it to be a lot more heavily tethered in these 2 universes, and I guess I don't understand.
There's the Lunatrix, and there's...
I mean, dude, quite honestly, it would make perfect sense in this story to do something like that. In issue 3 or issue 4, they encounter some kind of weird, like, space bounty hunter guy. He's like a hog dude, right? Yeah. You say it like I'm supposed to know who that is.
No, you're not supposed to. It's a Transformer. Okay. Apparently, it's a deep cut. I don't know who he is. I only know him as a Void Rivals character. I just think I love the story. So
they do have a Transformers character in it. I just did not know who he was.
Yeah, so he has a quintessence and everything. Like So he's a from what I understand. Now it could be a main character, and I would still not know. But I think it's more of a deep cut. Which makes it even worse because we're getting we're getting at least a decent, healthy dose of Transformers, but there ain't been a peep of Joe.
Yeah, so just in case you're not planning on reading it, or it's been a while since you've read the whole thing, basically I'll sum up the whole 4 issues very quickly. You probably, if you haven't seen, we did an entire episode covering the first one, so I'm not going to get into that. 2 alien species crash land on a planet. They're at war with each other. They are fighting one another. They realize they can't survive unless they work together. They work together. They take their helmets off. Hey, they're both humanoid they have a symbol on their head. That's the only thing that makes them different. They've been told otherwise this whole time. So they've been fighting a fake war over they're both struggling for resources. And so a lot of the fighting seems to be based on trying to bring back resources to keep everybody alive. And so the 2 of them work together. They escape from the planet. They encounter some stuff, the bounty hunter thing I was talking about, just a side story. They are able to get off this crash planet. They start headed back. They're like, hey, we learned something that we're not supposed to know, that we're the same. Let's split off. We'll go tell somebody that we could trust in each species or whatever, race, and go from there. And then the female intruder double crosses him, knocks him out, takes him to her base. She meets with their like king and susses out that she knows what's underneath the helmet, locks them both up.
Yep.
Was that it? Am I forgetting anything?
Ladies be crazy. No, you got it 100% right. It's basically a Romeo and Juliet platonic. Like
It is.
There's no love, but yeah.
So, I mean, it does borrow a lot. I feel like if you're familiar with the Image Comics Saga, which is a very popular science fiction fantasy book, it really resonates a story of a prisoner and a guard from two opposing races that were at war with each other that fall in love and escape. Not going to pretend like there's not some parallels there. And I think Void Rivals is good. I think it's well written. I think it's well drawn. I just am not interested in reading a book that does not have G.I. Joe stuff in it.
And I am in the complete opposite boat. I am 100% interested in this story, and I can't wait until they inevitably make these characters in action figure form. Because if you look at their designs, you cannot convince me that they weren't made with action figures in mind.
That's right. Coming soon to Page Punchers, 2.5 scale Void Rivals. Just like they'll absolutely not make them in the scale. They'll probably make them classified size because we already know they're making Mole Rats. Yeah. Mole Rats leans into the Energon part, so the connected universe it's coming together. So I mean, yes, I have been a little disappointed in it overall. I just am ready for the G.I. Joe stuff to happen. I don't read a ton of comics anymore that independently attract me. Like I just have the business of comics has driven me out over the years as things have changed so much, and there are not a lot of comics that I feel like are great reads anymore. And, I mean, Saga is truly one of the last comics that I've held on to that's not G.I. Joe, because I think it is phenomenal. I'm not saying
Superman is incredible that's going on right now, and I think you should give it a try.
Well, I read that Superman run when Brian Michael Bendis was writing it, and I liked it a lot. And when he left, so did I, which is something that I do a lot. So I don't know. Maybe I'll go back and catch up some stuff. I don't want to get sidetracked because we're wrapping up. But like, I read X-Men for a crazy amount of time. Yeah. I probably collected X-Men longer than you've been alive. It was one of the first comics I read, and I read it over a decade, but probably 2 decades. And
this just in, folks. Greg is old.
Newsflash. But the thing that got me was I stopped reading X-Men for, I don't remember what I just was like, I gotta cut back. I'll jump back in later. And I tried to jump back in probably 4 years later, and there was no jumping on point. Me, a guy that knew the entire history of the X-Men, I was like, this entire team is all new people. I don't know who they are. I was just like, I don't know what's going on, and they're not explaining it to me. It really harkens back to the old G.I. Joe comics that we were reading, where the old adage, every comic is somebody's first comic, and so you're supposed to make it as accessible as possible. And they did that a lot in the 80s, and they don't do it a lot now. I think they write for the trade paperback. Yeah. So if you're not in one of those runs, they expect you to go back and find all those trade paperbacks. And
I think that's one of the things that makes me like the new Superman run, because the first splash panel, the beginning of every issue, is just born on a dying planet. Like, like it gives you like the key bulletin points of this is who Superman is, and here's what's going on, and it kind of like boom, and it very much like I listened to a comic book podcast for years. It was not a very big successful podcast, but it was like 4 guys who just loved comics, and they always reiterated that every comic could be someone's first comic, and like I feel like they're doing a really good job on that on Superman. I am all in on all of the Dawn of DC stuff. It's another DC reboot, but I try everything, and right now, I mean, they're batting about 500. I mean, for every Superman there is a Hawk Girl where I'm like, nah, I don't care. But then there's the new Teen Titans, or there's the new Catwoman, which is really good, or the new Wonder Woman, which actually is really cool from the first issue. She's like anti-government, and there's like a secret society of the king of America, which is a cool concept.
All right, so let's get back on track.
Back to Joe's.
Do you plan on reading this Transformers comic that's coming?
I actually do. Yeah, I'm gonna jump full hog into the Skybound, I think. I mean, we're talking 2 Joe books, a Transformers book, and then an actual Joe book, and then Void Rivals, because I'm not giving up on it.
It's 3 if you count a Real American Hero.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Duke,
There's Duke, Cobra Commander, and then a Real American Hero. 3, and then Transformers and Void Rival.
I am undecided if I want to start the Transformers book. I didn't have great success reading it when Revolutions launched it, and they were putting actual GI Joes in the book, and I was still kind of like, I just do not know anything about Transformers, and I can't follow the book, and I'm only reading it for GI Joe stuff. But I do love DWJ is the guy that does the art on the Transformers book. I think he's very, very talented. I've seen he has a YouTube thing on Friday nights where he often shows him
That's cool.
like actually penciling on it. So I've seen some great art coming out of it. I guess I will try it and see.
The first issue out. The first issue out of Transformers is out. I have it. I just haven't read it yet.
Oh, well, I need to read that when we're done here. I have also actually, as very last thing, they did show the covers for the new Duke and Cobra Commander books.
Looks phenomenal.
Very interesting approach. Both of the teams, they made it so it would immediately get your attention, and they did exactly that because both covers have a kind of somebody that doesn't exactly belong there. Let me find this picture real quick.
Well, as you're finding that, I'm going to take this is the last thing I want to talk about, and mention Tripwire, because he's phenomenal, and I love him, and I have him in my hands, and he's the best thing that I've ever had in my life. And he also is the first figure, at least that I can think of, that comes with a 1911, which is my favorite handgun.
Save it for recent acquisitions, buddy.
He will be in every recent acquisitions, because I'm just going to keep buying Tripwires, baby. This whole wall is going to be Tripwire.
Launching on December 27th, 2023, meet the faces of Codename G.I. Joe, Hawk, Duke, Baroness, and Stalker, beginning in Duke number 1. So, right away, so we'll go ahead and eliminate. There's Duke. We all know him. He looks like the last figure that came out. There's Stalker. He looks very heavily classified influence because he's got his little, parka, scarf thing draped over him. Then we got these other 2 oddballs. This guy on the left is Hawk, who is in a full battle, his full military dress with all the all his little badges of honor. He's got the not John Constantine, John Etrigan, the demon. He's got this white streak of hair here. He's also got some Reed Richards on the side. So I'm guessing they've moved Hawk into this is a role that Hawk has had before in the comic. He's a very strict advisory role only. Does not go on the missions. You do not dress like that for military work. He's obviously overseeing the whole show. That's fine. Yeah, it's actually a pretty cool look. And also, it could have very easily also been Joe Colton, who did a similar thing in a similar suit for a while. But I think that what everybody's really talking about is the fact that Baroness is on the team. So there's only 2 options, right? One, we're really, really, really rewriting the continuity, and she's a good guy for realsies. Or the more likely scenario that she's the traitor, and they just haven't realized it yet. The only other option would be that she's Chameleon, which is a character that was released as a figure. It was a Baroness repaint, came out during the Big Lots years, and she was made, maybe they had lost the name to Baroness at the time, but anyway, the file card is like, hey, this is not Baroness, it's somebody that looks just like her, and we put her on upon Cobra as an infiltrator, and they call her Chameleon. This is referenced more in the G.I. Joe Cobra book that you and I were reading with Chuckles in it, as she's introduced in a different way. But I'm going to throw that out there because that is also a possibility that is Chameleon. She will pretend to be the Baroness in the comic later on and infiltrate the team. On the other side of that coin, we've got Meet the Faces of Cobra. Cobra Commander, Destro, Mercer, and Zarana, beginning in Cobra Commander number 1 on January 17th, 2024. Great preview of this out right now. You can read the first 3 pages where Cobra Commander kills the dude and he leaves his blood, leaves the Cobra logo. That's a good read. Has a lot of
I
potential.
didn't know that was out yet. I'll have to hit that up tonight before I go to bed. Nothing
So
like Bludd and Cobra symbols to send me
So-
to sleep.
same thing on this side. Cobra Commander, is looking perfect. It looks exactly as you remembered him. Same thing with Destro. Zorana, does look exactly like Zorana, and I can only assume it's there because they don't have the Baroness. She's over there for now. And in an era of the Marvel run where the Cobra leadership had kind of fallen to the wayside because everybody was leaving, dying, or both, Zorana filled in for a long time as upper management. Zartan was not on the team. He was presumed dead for a long time. Cesspool was like a pretty big prominent figure in the inner meetings, and so was Zorana. So that's not too out of place for me. Although I would have preferred to see Zartan, obviously, I can assume he's going to be in it at some point. Mercer, on the other hand, is famously known for being a Cobra Viper that switches sides and comes over with lots of key information. Most prominently remembered from the G.I. Joe animated movie because he knows the ventilation shafts are the weak spot of a Terradrome, and that's how Sarge and the other Marauders get in. So again, same thing. We are to kind of assume that Mercer is probably still a villain at this point, but is feeling bad about the things he's done and will make the switch at some point. I don't know how soon they're slating that to happen, but I feel like this telegraphs pretty clear that something is in the works.
Mercer's also giant. Like on this, he's a very large man.
Maybe he quit because they don't have Viper outfits in that size. So yeah, those are both coming out at the end and beginning of this year and the start of next, and I'm very excited to read these. I am as excited to see what's going to happen in these books as I am to see A Real American Hero 301. Larry has not been as adventurous with the last run of A Real American Hero, in my opinion. Maybe some of that is because there are no toys that he is forced to write for, or maybe he just doesn't like shaking up the continuity like he used to, and so these books fill that void in a big way. They give me a different screenshot of what a different G.I. Joe reality would look like, and then I steal from it, and I'm like, yes, I want this in my universe, and I want this in my universe, and it all comes together quite well. So I like seeing other interpretations of the it's not all A Real American Hero, and in a time where A Real American Hero has not been taking a lot of chances, it still performs satisfactory. I like it when things get a little wild, I guess, in the book. So we'll see, coming soon. I guess until then, I'll hold myself over with Void Rivals, and I will start reading that Transformers probably as soon as tonight. Just to kind of hold me over. It's about once these are all in an actual regular monthly rotation, it'll probably be all I can do to keep up. I'm going from reading right now I'm reading no comics a month, so I'll be reading several.
Back. I've probably got 12 ongoing. Wild.
Yeah, it's tough to balance the old comic life. I've been there as I'm just very slowly thinning out my lifelong collection. So we'll revisit this. When these books hit, we'll definitely cover them and talk about them more in depth. I'm very interested in what they've got going on, and I'm a big fan of all the creative team that's involved in these books across the board. I think they will whip up some pretty wild and good reads for us. And that's going to do it for us here on Anything Joe's. We'll be back in 2 short weeks where we're going to resume watching the Pyramid of Darkness. We're on part 4 of 5, and I'm very excited to get into this is like the nitty gritty now. We're getting some cubes activated. It's time to get serious. You can find us on Twitter and Instagram at Anything Joe's Pod. Jaren runs our Twitter and I run our Instagram. You can also email us directly. And reverse. And you can also email us directly to anythingjoespodcast@gmail.com, and we would love to hear from you. Your thoughts on Void Rivals, your thoughts on the Cobra Mothership. Yes. And anything else in between. And we look forward to talking to you again in just 2 short weeks, where anything's available for discussion here on Anything Joe's.
All right, welcome to Anything Spider-Man. We're going to talk about Marvel Spider-Man 2.
Spider-Man 2, the all Spider-Man 2. Are you a Miles or are you a Pete? Take our fun online survey and find out.